Please give a warm welcome for Todd Greene, our next speaker.
Thank you. This was fun. Thank you very much. I really appreciate inviting me to talk to TiE. I got an outreach from Vish Mishra at Silicon Valley TiE. Anyone know Vish? He seems to know everyone, who had asked me to present. We were one of the first TiE angel investments, at least out of that office, I think in 2012, about 10 years ago, plus or minus. And so we're still trying to return value to the investors, since we're still a private company, but we've been growing and having some good success. So I thought it would be good to just talk about what PubNub does to some extent, but then how that relates to the experience that we got working with TiE and how really TiE helped us kind of get to various levels in our organization. So I'll just jump right in. We started this company with this idea of making your experiences online as good or even better than they can be in the real world. And this was kind of a crazy concept 10 years ago, before COVID and Zoom and everything else, where people were just starting to collaborate together online and do things, and the experience was pretty bad. In fact, I would still say it's terrible compared to us being in a room together. That's why we're here, right? And not always on Zoom if we can avoid it. But that's been our vision and a mission. So we said, well, how can we actually make good on this vision? Well, we're not VR people. We don't know how to put brains into people's brains. That's what wires in people's brains. That's what Elon Musk is doing. But one thing we did know, we were infrastructure developers, we could provide a platform so that app developers of all kinds could create online experiences. We called it a virtual space platform. So they could build any kind of app that had any kind of collaboration in real time. So whether it's two people talking or collaborating in some way with a digital whiteboard or any other kind of multi-user experience, or whether it's 2 million people, we could provide a software platform, basically a global network, so people could easily build applications to do that. And when you say virtual space, a lot of people thought, that meant virtual reality, right? That's what Hollywood's led us to believe. But actually, we know that's not true, right? Especially after COVID, this is an easy story to tell. Virtual spaces are here every day. When we're on Zoom, it's a virtual space. When we're ordering a taxi and we're watching the taxi approach us, that's a virtual space. When we are in a multiplayer game, when we are shopping in an auction, anytime you have multiple people online interacting in some way, that's a virtual space. Easy to explain today. Easy to raise money today on that story. Let's go back 10 years ago. Okay, 10 years ago, when PubNub first started, Uber didn't exist, at least not in anyone's sort of, consciousness as a cool, fast-growing company. Peloton didn't exist, another great virtual space, right, where you have people exercising together with a device. Zoom really didn't exist. Yeah, there was WebEx, but it wasn't used as often. Grubhub didn't exist. You couldn't have a real-time order for your food and track your food on a map and see where that's going. And there's lots of other Grubhubs like Swiggy, which is one of our customers in India, growing at an immense rate that now leverages PubNub, as a matter of fact. Nest didn't exist, so having a lot of smart home where you could be in a virtual space with all of your devices and see what was happening. These things didn't exist. There weren't that many MMO games. I mean, there's World of Warcraft, but that was pretty proprietary. And there was no work-from-home mentality. Right? People weren't saying, oh, I'll just attend that meeting from home. That was much less common. So telling this story about virtual spaces and real-time connectivity and all this stuff, it was a tough story to tell. And in fact, it was tough enough that when we first started the company, we said, we're not going to raise any funding. We're just going to build this technology and create an easy adoption path for companies and let them come and sign up and leverage our technology. Now, when we started, people were talking about all this technology. When they wanted to build a real-time application, they all had to get down into the nitty-gritty and talk about things like XMPP and WebSockets and CoAP and a whole bunch of protocols and technologies. We wanted to simplify all that to a simple API so that any sort of simple app developer in a few lines of code could build these really compelling experiences and not worry about all the technology. And we wanted to do it in a way where we could be a global network where any device could connect to us and get really low latency to any other device, so whether they're doing chat applications or multiplayer games. We wanted it to be friendly to developers, so we had to create APIs that were fun to use, app developers, not things that you needed to be a PhD in computer science to understand. We wanted to create a lot of SDKs, so it didn't matter what environment you were working with. Microsoft platforms, iPhones, Androids, embedded devices, didn't matter. My co-founder, Steven, single-handedly wrote about 30 SDKs and 30 programming languages, as well as the infrastructure for PubNub and the website, and did all the marketing, and I was just advising him on the weekends. So we were really a one-person company, and no one knew. We wanted it to be fast. We had a 100 millisecond global latency target, so you could have people collaborating from anywhere in the world and it would feel like the blink of an eye. Needed to be secure because we knew we wanted to sell to big companies. And we wanted it to be globally distributed and scalable, so a big global network. So we actually did all of this without raising any financing. We bootstrapped PubNub, and we used public clouds to create nodes all over the world. We patented all of this stuff, and we had a completely bootstrapped organization run by 1.3 people. I was the 0.3, because I was CEO of another company doing this on the weekend. And my co-founder was doing all the heavy lifting, and he also somehow found time to go start to speak to investors. But at that point, we decided, we don't really need to raise capital. Now, here's a video of Stephen. You won't be able to hear him, but what he's saying is, I intend to connect every device on this planet and beyond. That was his vision. We are going to connect every single device. We actually found out years later that only 2 years after we started the company, there was a small startup using PubNub for a chat application that was in the ISS. So he was actually right about and beyond. We actually did power some things in outer space. But one day, about 2011, Stephen called me up and he said, good news and bad news. I said, what's the good news, Stephen? He said, well, the good news is we just surpassed a steady state of 100 messages a second going through our global network. That's amazing. I can't believe that. This is a little bootstrap company. What's the bad news? He said, we have to shut down PubNub. I said, what do you mean shut it down? That sounds great. Are we getting sued? What's happening? He says, no, I haven't had time to build a billing system, and we've run out of money. I can't pay Amazon their bills. I just don't know what to do anymore. I said, well, there's a whole thing called venture capital. We can raise some capital. Let's go do that. And Stephen had already started to talk to TiE. And so it was really the first organization that understood what we were doing, that was interested to invest. And so when we were ready, we went back to the TiE group and we partnered with Relay Ventures to set a valuation. And TiE was eager to jump in. It was really rewarding because at the time, again, easy to tell this story today because you've just spent 2 years at home in COVID using many different kinds of real-time synchronous applications. 10 years ago, this was a tough story to tell. Now, this is almost a religious slide here. How many angels? When we pitched to TiE, they said, look, the TiE group, Angel Group in Silicon Valley said, usually, if we get a thumbs up, you'll be 4 to 6 people that might want to invest. And all of a sudden, there was, I think, over 24 people who said, we want to invest. It was a huge participation, which was really rewarding. Actually, Raj, who presented last night, Raj Parekh from Cloud Volumes, anyone watch the I think he was on a video last night. Did anyone see that? No? Did I miss that? Well, anyway, maybe he's going to present. I'm not sure. But he actually joined our board in the first year, and then later on, Prashant Shah, another member of TiE Silicon Valley, TiE Angel Silicon Valley, became part of the board and really helped out in a lot of ways. And if it wasn't for the TiE Angel Group, we really would not have been where we are. We made introductions to prospects, to candidates for job offers, to investors, partners, other CEOs, and just helping us with a lot of brainstorming. So that was really, really nice when we were in this very early industry, this very early space where we didn't even have a name for what we were doing yet. And yet we knew there was something there because we had grassroots usage, 100 customers that we'd never met that just swiped a credit card and started using our technology. So it was really rewarding. And too many people to name, so I'll just name a few, and I'm terrible with names, but for example, one of the early people at TIBCO was an investor, Shamek, who Shamek met me at multiple times with a lot of interesting advice for messaging. Vamsi, who is a young CEO that was also becoming a CEO same time I was, who was really helpful. Jayesh, who is in Singapore, who I think had started Sony Entertainment there, or some Sony division. Ulas, who became an investor in his own right with a separate investment firm, who has been really, really helpful throughout these years. Many others, and of course, Vish Mishra, who's been, always there when I needed to, always bugging me about, when are you going to have a liquidity event, dude? Come on, let's go, move it faster. So it has been a long run, but it's been a really great network of people all over the place to help out. Later on, we raised our first big institutional round, and a lot of TiE members came in to participate in that as well. And fast forward to today, we've raised, as was just previously mentioned, over 130 million. All of our rounds have been up rounds, clean term sheets, no preferred participating, crazy preference multiples, just very clean term sheets. So hopefully we're continuing to build value for our early and our later stage investors alike. We've now raised from Sapphire Ventures and most recently from Rain. which is a great merchant bank that has a great global network and an investment arm. So they've been a really great partner as well. For those of you who know Jay Doss, the president of Sapphire, he's a member of our board as well. And then we've taken institutional or strategic investment from Cisco, from Bosch, Ericsson, HPE. So it's been a really nice, rewarding sort of contribution from investors. How am I doing on time? Good so far? Anyone, are you guys bored of me yet? Should I keep going a little bit? All right. 5, okay. So I won't go through a lot of stuff, but if you think about now today, any new economy app starts with a virtual space, whether it's rideshare, whether it's food delivery, whether it's smart home. It starts with having a virtual place where people can get together online and collaborate in real time. And the technology for that is actually different than the technology we heard in the previous speaker, Web 1.0, Web 2.0. Right? In order to have applications that have this idea of people collaborating on real time, you have to have a different kind of technology, and that's what we've built. And so now a lot of the apps you use every day are actually powered by PubNub. How many people have heard of Clubhouse, made a lot of buzz last year? That's powered by PubNub. All that interaction between all the users, all powered by PubNub. One of the biggest games in the App Store, these guys generate, I think, over $1 billion a year in revenue. It's called Coin Master. Over 100 million active users. Their whole social layer powered by PubNub today. Every concert that Live Nation puts on now, or at least most of them, have a hybrid interactive part. If you're staying home and still watching the concert, you can interact online with other fans, powered by PubNub. Smart home companies like Vivint, all of the real-time interaction to turn on the devices to see what's going on in your house. Nike now does all of their shoe launches online, powered by PubNub. SaaS companies like Autodesk, if you use Autodesk and anything real-time happens in the app in any of their apps, their entire interaction layer now is powered by PubNub. A company just recently acquired by Facebook, Customer with a K, which is a customer support platform, is powered by PubNub along with Five9 and many other customer support platforms. Symphony, if any of you are investors and use that platform, a lot of the underpinnings of that interaction between the users goes through our global network. And so, it's really interesting. It's, so many, and how many people are software people and use Atlassian, Jira, or Confluent? That has PubNub inside of it now. Logitech Harmony remotes. If you actually live in Europe and you hit a button to actually release chemicals to kill mosquitoes in your household, that product is made by Henkel and powered by PubNub. So a lot of different real-time connections with devices and people all over the place. And we're now operating at pretty good scale. We do over 3 trillion API calls. We handle over 3 trillion API calls a month, and many hundreds of millions of connected devices on our network. And this is just a quick image. I asked my co-founder, Steven, to create a little global heat map of 6 hours of traffic just to see where people are coming from. What I think is interesting about this, you'll see India is pretty heavily lit up there. I went to India in 2019 to visit a number of startups to really get an idea of how much we should invest there to expand our business, because we have a limited number of dollars and resources where to put people. And I was blown away. So I joined my first startup in 1996 in Silicon Valley. And the energy, I went to 10-person startups. I went to bigger startups like Swiggy and let's see, Zomato, and I was probably about 15, 16 companies. The energy that was coming out of these companies reminded me so much of Silicon Valley from 1996, 97. There's this huge amount of energy. It's funny, at Swiggy, I spent some time there because they're a big customer of ours. People didn't walk to meetings, they ran to meetings. No one was going slow. Everyone was jogging. Everything was going at a 10x rate. It was really inspiring because it kind of reminded me of the early days of Silicon Valley where people were just, in it not because, what am I going to get from it, but it was more of a question of what am I going to do to make this venture successful. It was really inspiring. So we've really turned our focus, and our fastest growth area now is not just India, but broader Southeast Asia has been a huge growth for us, from the Philippines to Thailand to Indonesia, Singapore, India. We're seeing the biggest growth. And so many companies, when we started PubNub, were maybe writing software in India, but for European or US markets, and that's totally changed. Now most of the companies in India that we're selling to are writing software for the India market. And so we've just launched a 10-person team in Singapore and surrounding some people in India, some people in Hong Kong, to really focus on this market. And it's been pretty amazing. Last thing I'll leave you with is that I was at a TiE conference, TiECon, I think it was 2015, and I wish I could remember who said this, but they were speaking about startups, and they said, Silicon Valley companies spend 2 years on their tech and about 2 weeks on their go-to-market strategy. And that really stuck with me. In fact, stuck me with so much that we've invested more since then on our go-to-market strategy than we have on our tech. Because, we always had this great tech, but we never really knew what to call it, how to market it, how to sell it, how to price it. I mean, all of those things. And so, really over the last 5 years, what's helped to make us, more successful has been, looking at the 5 aspects of our sales cycle, or not sales cycle, but of our customer experience, from the way they discover PubNub to buying it, to launching on our network, to growing their business, and if we don't do badly, or if we don't do well, to shrink. Right? And so how do we focus on each of those areas? How do we make sure that we're providing a great experience for customers and preventing shrinkage at the end? And this has been a huge area of focus for us. So I won't get into numbers. We've been growing revenue. We spend very little amounts of money depending on how the market's doing. The big thing that our investors love about us, for those investors in the room, is what's called our net retention. So this shows if you go out 20 quarters, it's a long time because we've been around for a while now, that even after 20 quarters, an average customer is spending 242% of what they spent the first quarter that they bought with us. And one investor said, you guys are in rarefied air, I think was the term he used in terms of, so we have this very low churn rate and this really nice expansion rate. So it's kind of like, it takes a long time to get the boulder rolling, but when it does, it's hard to stop it. So I think I'll leave you there. As I said, we're investing in APAC, and now because we have so many petabytes of data flowing through PubNub, as you can imagine, the next product phase for us is really about what kind of value can we deliver to our customers based on all that information, kind of reports and analytics and actions that could be triggered based on all of these insights that we're getting by basically knowing about every single human interaction across hundreds of millions of devices and trillions of API transactions. So with that, I'll leave you. But I wanted to thank the TiE Angel Group for A, inviting me, and B, investing in the company, because without TiE Angels, we really would not be here today. So thank you very much.